Cis women in the UK, including survivors of breast cancer, are being targeted and abused by anti-trans bigots following the recent Supreme Court ruling that excluded trans women from the legal definition of a woman. Said ruling has emboldened said bigots, giving them a sense of authority which they turn to as justification to police the bodies and expression of other women, punishing any woman who doesn't line up with their white patriarchal notions of femininity, whether it be because of how they present, their ethnicity, or, as is the case with today's story, the result of life-saving treatment. But before we get to that, a quick content warning for the following: transphobia, misogyny, ableism, cancer, and harassment. If our work has helped you, please consider supporting us via Patreon so that we can keep the channel running. You can also help us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media. Hi there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and we need to talk about anti-trans bigots targeting and abusing a breast cancer survivor following the Transphobic Supreme Court ruling. For years, the trans community has warned general society, particularly cis women, what would happen if the government attempted to exclude trans people from gender spaces. Keep in mind, trans people within the UK have enjoyed access to said spaces without a single incident since at least 2010, following the passing of the 2010 Equality Act. It is also important to note that you don't require a Gender Recognition Certificate, or GRC, to change the gender marker on your personal ID, such as your passport and driver's license. All a GRC allows one to change is their birth certificate, marriage certificate, tax forms, and pension forms, so personal documents, and that is it. Both of these facts completely destroy any and all fear-mongering about the apparent dangers we pose. Of course, bigots are immune to reason and continue to demand our exclusion from gender spaces in line with our gender. So we warn society what would happen if it did. It's already been a decade since certain states within the US attempted just that. I remember covering Houston's Proposition 1 bathroom ordinance in 2015, and it's been 9 whole years since Vice ran an article titled "Women, plural, are getting harassed in bathrooms because of anti-transgender hysteria." When you attempt to exclude trans women from women's bathrooms, you create an environment in which rampant misogynists, like those who make up the gender-critical movement, feel emboldened to target and abuse any woman who doesn't line up with their purely white patriarchal standards of femininity. They effectively see trans exclusion as a way to not only harm trans people, though we remain their primary target, but to violently punish any woman for drifting too far from their prejudicial notions of what a woman is. And no woman is safe from this, not even members of the gender-critical movement. In 2023, a marathon runner with alopecia was accused of being trans and attacked as a, quote, sick, ugly man, end quote. Then, in 2024, she was harassed inside an airport bathroom, again, because the person harassing her thought she was a trans woman, leading her to share her story and receive an outpouring of support from the trans community, myself included. That's when she came out in support of the very narratives that led her to be targeted. That is how desperate these people are to hurt trans people. That's why it should come as little surprise when anti-trans bigots began targeting others, including cancer survivors. We saw this happen in 2022 with Tiffany Lyles Taylor, a 43-year-old lesbian woman from Leicestershire, as reported by the LGBTQ Nation. Taylor now suffers constant anxiety when using the bathroom as she's been harassed repeatedly and is forced to explain that she's a cancer patient and not a trans woman. Though, just to be clear, this wouldn't be any less wrong if she were a trans woman. But it does show the extremes to which gender-critical fascists will go to hurt trans people. And it's only gotten worse with the recent Supreme Court ruling, as explained by the Good Law Project's founder and director, Joe Morum, who took to Blue Sky to state that, quote, Last year my wife had breast cancer and a double mastectomy. This morning, for the first time ever, she was challenged in the changing rooms at a swimming pool. Her breasts were not what made her a woman. But, breast or not, she is entitled to dignity and protection from vigilantes." End quote. Which is absolutely horrific. Again, it'd be horrific even if Claire were a trans woman, but to be a breast cancer survivor whose double mastectomy is used as proof that she's really a man is fucking devastating. Many breast cancer survivors already suffer body dysmorphia and even gender dysphoria after losing their breasts. That's why some breast cancer survivors get implants and nipple tattoos as gender-affirming surgery, because yes, cis people get that as well. But gender-critical fascists have engineered an environment where members of the public feel secure in attacking strangers, including breast cancer survivors, denying them their gender on grounds of said life-saving surgery. That is absolutely vile. It's a clear reminder of just how inhuman fascism is. Thankfully, Claire received an outpouring of support from the trans community, obviously, as well as cis people, some of whom didn't show an understanding of the issue, leading Joe to respond by adding, quote, "I'm grateful for all the responses, but this is happening to thousands of women, cis and trans, up and down the country. Every day. The only difference is, she and I have a voice." Fuck all of those, especially the institutions who didn't do the work before piling in on the transgender issue. End quote. So very clear support for the trans community and their struggle alongside that of Claire's. It is not okay to abuse any woman or indeed person on the basis of their gender, whether they are trans or not. It is equally vile in both instances, yet sadly, cis society at large doesn't care when it's done to trans people, which is why human rights activists like myself and Joe are forced to use examples of cis women being harassed to try and get wider society to care. If you support gender-critical fascism and any of its leaders, such as J.K. Rowling, this is what you are supporting. This is what you have made yourself a part of. The targeting and abuse of breast cancer survivors who have been forced to undergo a mastectomy. Whilst this has happened before, we are seeing a noticeable uptick in this sort of violence following the transphobic Supreme Court ruling. Again, anti-trans bigots feel legitimized in their violence thanks to said ruling. That is why, now more than ever, we need everyone to come out and take a stand to say, no, this is not okay, and it never was. Nobody is free until everyone is. We are in this together. Gender-critical fascism is a tiny, hatefully vocal minority. They might have captured certain institutions, but they are not untouchable. We can bring the system crashing down around them if we decide to. As for Claire, I'm glad she at least has support in Joe, and I know he has the connections to get her further support should she need it. I hope we can kill the current climate soon so that she and all women can be free of these witch hunts, because that's what they are. Witch hunts. Cis men do not need to lie about being women in order to access women's spaces. It'd be much easier to simply dress as a janitor, as has actually happened in the past. Just like there were no witches, there are no cis men pretending to be trans women in order to assault cis women. It's a myth, one being used to terrorize and police all women. Though, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the current climate? Have you heard of any similar cases recently? Do you have any words of support for Claire? Did you notice something I missed? If so, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you appreciate what we do here and want to help keep us running, please consider becoming one of the wonderful patrons who make our work possible. You can also make a one-time donation via PayPal or Super Thanks on YouTube. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Flynn, Bo Ayer, Deborah Goldsmith, Higgins the Seagull, Jackie Sings, Mix Alba, and Peter Cole. And for myself, Edita and Levi, take care now.